The age of just about every part of town in Houston, Texas. My name's Mariam Hejazi. I've been helping people buy and sell residential real estate for 13 years, and I've been loving Houston since 1987. Let's get into it. So, I say this on probably 8 out of 10 videos. Houston is a really big city. We are the third largest city in America, and there are lots of different pockets. Houston is a relatively young city, speaking as a general statement of the overall United States, but being developed mostly starting in about, I'd say, World War II, post World War II. We had a lot of development in the early 1900s as well, but Houston really took off as we became the space city and right after World War II. So, because of this staggered development, different parts of town are different ages. Duh, but what part of town is the oldest, the youngest, and what kind of houses are in different pockets? If you want to live in a new construction house, there's lots of new construction at lots of different price points all across the city, but there's newer houses on the outskirts of town, and the closer you get into downtown, the older the house is. So I'm going to jump on to the map overview of Houston, and we're going to talk as just a general statement about as many parts of town as I can cover. So I'll see you on the map.
And here we are with the magic of technology. So as I say, again, on like 8 out of every 10 of my videos, I talk about how large Houston is, and I am not joking. Houston is an hour away from Houston. So if you're figuring out where to live here in Houston, don't make a big mistake. But this video is really centered around the age of different parts of town. So let's start kind of with this big picture. So Galveston is actually the oldest. And no, it's not Houston. Galveston is very different. And it's definitely a different city, different county, different everything. But Galveston would have been Houston if it had not been for the storm of 1900, which still remains the deadliest natural disaster in American history. It's estimated that nearly 10,000 people died in that 24-hour time period in September of 1900. After this storm came through, the population of Galveston, it was a big city. It was beautiful. There was a lot of wealth. It started to migrate up to Houston. It's just so much further inland, still accessible to the bay. And then fast forward to 1900, the port over here was open. So the port of Houston was open, and then the port of Galveston was still competing. So from 1900 to 1910, the population and the overall city of Galveston is still recovering from this monumental storm. And in the interim of this 10 years, Houston is growing. So where did it grow first? It first grew closest to downtown, here. The oldest house in Houston is built, I think, in 1865, 1867, something like that. And it's right here in downtown. And the next oldest portion of Houston is going to be as close to downtown as you can get. There are houses over here in Midtown and what we would call like Montrose-ish. There are houses over here in this area that are built in, I'd say, 1900 to about 1920. We see a lot of development over here in those first 2 decades of the 1900s. There are also original craftsmen over here that are going to be anywhere from about 1906 to, I'd estimate, about 1926. Now, over here, this is called near North Side, and even though these two portions of the city are really close to each other, they're very different. The Heights is very expensive, very nice. Near North Side is getting there. If you're looking to make a lot of money on an investment over the next 10 to 20 years, then get a couple houses in near North Side. Now these houses are approximately the same age of the Heights houses, but they have not seen the same gentrification that the Heights proper has. Now these are old houses too. These are going to be 30s, 40s, 50s. I'm sure tons of people live over here. This is probably not a place that you're going to move to when you come to Houston. Now this is what we call Edo, and then the wards and Greater Eastwood. So some of this is like 1900s, like early, anywhere from 1900 to about 1920. But then some of Greater Eastwood is actually developed in the 50s, because this is starting to get further away from downtown. And then down here, this is kind of like space age, the Houston space age explosion over here. So you're going to get mid-century moderns over here. Now Riverside Terrace, sorry, this is why I made a whole video about the age of Houston, because expansion and development happened in decade time chunks. So Riverside Terrace is really interesting. It was actually developed in the late 20s and 30s, and this was honestly, it was a predominantly Jewish community. The people that didn't build in River Oaks at the time came down to Riverside Terrace and built. So you have, like, especially on McGregor Parkway, you have houses as big as you see in River Oaks, all built in the same time period. Now this portion of town, a lot of these houses, if they're original, these are going to be 1940s houses. And then over here, most of this here is like, it's a patchwork. It's new townhomes, but then some of the area is like old 1930s, 1920s. Now over here, the people that developed this portion of Houston, this was developed very early on in Houston's history. And so we see houses predominantly built between about 1915 and 1940. And you hear me end a building period with 1940 and then start a building period at about 1945 because of World War II. World history does matter in residential real estate because there wasn't a lot of new builds going on during the Second World War. So we have beautiful, beautiful, beautiful estates over here. This is a lot of 1900, 1910-ish, all the way up to about 1940. You won't find a lot of houses with their year built as like 42 or 43 or 44. You'll see like 45, 48, 1940, 1936. It's due to World War II, and it's also due to, I believe there was a courthouse fire at some point in the 70s or 80s. I don't know a lot about it, but I've heard about it just in passing conversations in the many, 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 many open houses that I've held over the years. All right, so this is more original, like money development. So why I'm saying it like this is when Houston population exploded after the storm of 1900 in Galveston, this population explosion really took off at about 1910 because that's when the Houston ship channel opened. And a lot of people became wealthy because of the shipping channel. And this is all developed around this time period. And there are big, beautiful houses over here. So you're going to see a lot of new construction, luxury homes, but you're also going to see a lot of historic homes over here. A lot of people that work at Rice, doctors, attorneys, they live over here. It is very expensive. West University is a lot of 1930s development. You'll see some houses built in the 50s and the 60s, but those are usually would have been built on vacant lots at the time, or as early as the 50s, they would have demolished something built in the 30s or the 20s. Now, as we come down here, Southside Place and Braeswood, this is going to have been developed in the 50s. Same with most of Braeswood here. So you're going to see kind of mid-century modern and mid-century ranches over here, unless they have been demoed and a giant McMansion been put in its place. This little corner of town is very interesting. I have an entire driving tour video dedicated to this one trapezoidal shape. This is old Braeswood. It was originally developed in the 20s and the 30s, and so we have beautiful houses built in these time periods, but we also have really fancy mid-century ranches and very fancy mid-century modern houses built. So they were demoing beautiful houses all the way back in the 50s and the 60s. This is pretty expensive neighborhood. There are a lot of townhomes over here. This is heavy medical center population here. A lot of people that work in the medical center are living here. Now, keep in mind that this is kind of like the stadium area. The Astrodome, its first game was played, I think, in 1963. So, and this is more space age development here in Houston. And then this is where the rodeo happens. This is where the Texans play. So NRG, I think that they're renaming back to Reliant. So you can expect to see this Reliant soon, I think. Don't quote me on that. So Houston Texans, Houston Rodeo, that's what's over here. The Astrodome, which is currently not open to the public, unfortunately, but that is a different video. Let's zoom out a little bit, get our bearings back. So Houston Heights, it again is going to be developed in pre-World War II. So most of these houses are going to be pre-World War II. And then right after World War II, we have a lot of post-war housing that happened in Oak Forest and Garden Oaks. That is up here, Candlelight Plaza, Shepherd Park Plaza, which is up here. These are a lot of mid-century ranches or right at the post-World War development boom, which would have been like 1945, 46, 47, 48. And then we get into those beautiful, like low-slung horizontal roof lines of the mid-century ranches and mid-century modern houses. So that's going to be up here. Again, so post-World War II here, pre-World War II here. And now this part of town, this is very complex. Again, this is why I'm making this big overarching video. So Rice Military, Camp Logan, and the name is eluding me at the moment. Crestwood, Glen Cove, yes. So Camp Logan is called Camp Logan because it was a military camp in World War I, not II, one. And so there's actually a lot of World War I history associated with Camp Logan, but it is a beautiful little secret garden feel. The original houses were built in the 40s, but since then, the majority of Camp Logan is 3- and 4-story luxury townhomes, and you're walking distance to Memorial Park, which is an amazing part of Houston. It's one of my favorite things about our city. This again is going to be original houses are going to be in the 40s in Crestwood and Glen Cove, but there's been a lot of new construction and gigantic houses live here, and the price point here is really going to start at about $2 million and could go all the way up to like $6 million. Now Rice Military original again these are going to be 40s houses, and as we get closer to downtown, the houses get older. So these houses, the original houses over here, are older than Rice Military, but not by many years. Most of the Washington corridor, we call this is Washington, most of this corridor has been rebuilt. These are a lot of townhomes built between 2008 and present day 2026. Now, if we go below Memorial and Allen Parkway, and I'll teach you something. The Allen Parkway is named for the Allen brothers who were instrumental in the early development of Houston. Now, all of the wards are going to have been built in the 20s, 30s, 40s. And we have really just another giant patchwork. It's either newer construction between about 1990 to present day 2026, which would have been built on top of a 30s or 40s bungalow, or it's the original 30s or 40s bungalow. There was some development in the 80s. There are some really cool houses built in the 80s, and there's some really terrible houses built in the 80s. So we come over here to River Oaks, which is literally the #1 most expensive part of Houston. Here you can find houses starting, well, also in this portion of River Oaks. So it sandwiches San Felipe. This is the River Oaks Country Club, River Oaks Golf Course. I mean, for a smaller lot over here, you're talking like 1.7, and you could go all the way up to like $50 million over here in River Oaks. And this little pie piece is also River Oaks. There is a beautiful mid-century modern for sale over here, I think for $2.8 million. Now this portion over here, this is going to be 30s and 40s again, maybe a little bit older. But as we get further west, which this development happened in the 50s again, this is, hold on, Afton Oaks. Why can I not recall that like that? Afton Oaks, this is going to be 50s development, late 40s, 50s, a little bit of 60s. So you're either going to have original like mid-century houses, or you're going to have giant McMansions up here. And then actually as we get south of 59, this is a lot of new construction over here. And when I say new construction, it's going to be anywhere from probably about 1980 to present day 2026. And again, Westview is 1930s-ish, some 1940s. All right, so let's back out. Bel Air, this is again going to be space age development, 50s, 60s, or it's going to be a McMansion built on what was previously space age building. Meyerland and Westbury, Maplewood, these are mostly still mid-century ranches and mid-century modern houses, or something has been built on top of them. This part of town ranges anywhere from about 300 for like a very small house that needs work to $1 million for an original house. You can go all the way up to probably $1 million. And then if you get over the $900 million mark, you're really looking at new construction. And everything over here, actually everything that is new over here has to be built up. So you're going to have very tall houses that you have to walk up the steps to get to the front door, because Braeswood does flood, and every other house, literally every other house over here flooded in one of the major floods in the last 15 to 20 years. So keep that in mind if you're looking in this area. Not all of the houses flooded. I'd like to really emphasize that. Not all the houses flooded. A lot of them did. So it's really just case by case basis over here. This is more mid-century Sharpstown. This is all just a lot more mid-century modern, mid-century ranches. All of this, Braes Oaks, Brayburn Country Club, Sharpstown. Sharpstown actually, it is, the neighborhood does leave something to be desired, but I'll tell you what, there are some really cool houses over here, but this neighborhood still definitely has some time to improve. Again, mid-century space age development out on this side. Now the villages would have been developed in probably, I would say like the 60s or the 70s. A lot of them are 50s houses too. If it's an original house, it's going to be very nice, or literally a mansion, not a McMansion, a mansion will be over here. This is another very expensive part of town. Generally the villages. Now Tanglewood is originally developed in the 50s, and lot value over here is going to be about 2 million, 1.7 to 2-ish. And you're either going to have beautiful mid-century ranches over here, or you're going to have literally mansions. And the same goes for most of this over here. Briargrove is the same, pretty expensive price point. The closer you get to Houston Country Club, which is right here, any of the villages are going to run you at least $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. So Spring Valley Village, Hillshire Village, Hunters Creek Village, Bunker Hill Village, Piney Point Village, all of the villages. We call these the villages. They have their own police as well, like West University. So let's zoom out and let's see. Okay, Spring Branch. This again is all going to be mid-century modern ranches and mid-century modern houses. Same in this little pocket. There's a lot of big, huge stucco townhomes over here, but then there's a little pocket over here that has, like, this pocket specifically is like 50s houses. Pretty nice. I've sold a couple houses over here. And then this is Memorial. So we're going to get on the outside of the Beltway. Memorial is very nice. There's a lot. The houses get a little bit newer over here. The original houses do. They are going to be anywhere from about 1960 to like the 80s. And Lakeside Country Club's over here. Some of the houses in Lakeside flooded in Harvey, so just beware. Really, any house in Houston, it's a case-by-case basis. Okay, and then now we go west. As we're going west, the houses get younger and younger. Katy, far out here, this is all a lot of 70s, 80s, 90s. And then as we get outside of 99, this is all going to be like late 90s, 2000s, all the way up to 2026. And of course, as we get all the way out here, these are like newer. Firethorn is still going to be like 2010 to 2020, maybe before 2010. This is all like very new development. Yeah, basically all of this is new construction down here. Now, Richmond and Rosenberg are older, but since that's not technically Houston, I'm trying to keep this video a little bit compact. Now, Sugarland was really developed in like the 80s and the 90s, so a lot of the original construction houses in like Sugarland proper are going to be 80s, 90s, or early 2000s. They're going to be very typical red brick traditional homes, really well built, in my opinion. Missouri City, some of it is old, like 70s, 80s, and then some of Missouri City is like brand spanking new. Quail Valley is cool. It's like a 70s community, and it's centered around the Quail Valley Golf Club. See, there you go. Really cool 70s houses over here. I've shown probably about 20 of these over the last few years. I think there's some really cool houses. Some of them flooded, some of them didn't, just like the rest of Houston. So just case by case basis there. Now okay, all new construction. New. I would say 90s new, early 2000s new. Pasadena, portions of Pasadena are going to have been built in the 50s. This is more a space age development. Clear Lake, you're going to have 50s houses all the way up through the 80s, 90s. You're going to have some new construction. Now let's go to the north side. Now, Kingwood over here, very nice community, very nice. Kingwood is going to be developed between about 1975 to about 1995. That's the largest portion of the development time window. You're going to have corresponding ages of homes. So the giant brick traditional homes over here. There's a golf club, Lake Houston. There's a lot. Let me just tell you something real quick, by the way. If you are going from like Humble or like Summerwood over here and you're going to Kingwood, this is like almost a 30-minute drive. It shouldn't be, but it is. It is the stoplights. They are unforgiving. This is all going to be the closer to Beltway 8, actually you'll get newer houses, and the closer to Kingwood you'll get older houses, but in that like 70s to 90s time window. Really nice houses in Kingwood. Again, very, very heavy hit by the Harvey flooding. Porter, right now, are brand spanking new houses. New, 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 new. But they used to be super country out there, and now they're not. Okay, so now we're getting to the Woodlands. The Woodlands started to be developed in the early 80s. So we're going to have 80s all the way up to present day. Some very expensive, some reasonable, but you can't really get into the Woodlands for really less than, I don't know, about 600. And now this is like a melting pot area. Like part of this is like, this is the Woodlands, but then like this is Magnolia. And like this is Magnolia, and like this is the Woodlands. Close, similar, different though. And so you really have to like know what you're talking about when you're up there, because Magnolia is very different than the Woodlands, and vice versa. The Woodlands is much more like master planned community, and Magnolia is just an old town that grew, if that paints a picture for you. So Tomball and Magnolia are like almost synonymous. They're not synonymous, but they are often said together because they are relatively close together. Tomball is in Harris County, Magnolia is in Montgomery County. Most of the Woodlands is in Montgomery County, but some of it is in Harris County. And so you have a big county delineation point over here. Tomball is a great little city. Again, Tomball is a small town that grew like Magnolia, but the Woodlands is a master planned community. So you have like all of the road systems work together, all the parks talk to each other. And then Tomball and Magnolia are more just like your typical small town Texas that just grew over the decades. And then the further out you get, like, I mean, some of the houses out here, like the farmhouses, they could be like 18 something. They could have been built in like 1890, 1900, 1850. I mean, there was farming out, like legitimate farming. There was a lot of German immigrants that settled these areas. A lot in Tomball, actually. Tomball even has a German fest every year, twice a year. Now Cypress, this is Cypress, Bridgelands, all of the Coppers, Copperfield, Copper Lakes, Jersey Village. This is all like 90s construction, and then a lot of Cypress is still even being built up today. Now this is Katie's Prairie, and the development that has occurred in Katie's Prairie is actually the reason why the rest of Houston floods. This was like a bajillion gallon water sink, but now it is being poured in with concrete. Unfortunately, I cannot do anything about that. And so that is about all the major parts of town. Oh, well, I'll say Champion Forest, Lakewood Forest. This is like 70s development. There are a lot of really cool houses over here. A lot of this flooded, not all of it flooded, okay? Willowbrook, 90s. This portion, late 80s, 90s. This portion over here, this is going to be older. This is much more sparsely populated. It's very industrial, railroady, junkyardy. It's changing, but that's large in part what is over here. If you want to make a lot of money in the next 10 years, then just buy as much as you can over here, and it's all going to appreciate in value. I can almost guarantee you. Of course, I don't have a crystal ball. Let's see. If you have questions about a specific area that you feel like I didn't cover, just leave a comment or reach out, and I can kind of give you a rundown of most of these areas in town. Again, I always say in my videos that I've been loving Houston since 1987. I am a native Houstonian, and my family has been here since the late 60s. So my family has a lot of local knowledge about just the way Houston used to be and why it is the way it is today. And so if you are coming to Houston or the surrounding area and you don't know where to start, I'd love an opportunity to earn your business. And again, my name is Mariam Hejazi. I've been helping people buy and sell residential real estate for 13 years, and I've been loving Houston since 1987, and I shall see you on the next one. Bye.